In the last video, we learned about the brand trust flywheel. Now, for a corporation to successfully implement and sustain that brand trust flywheel, the corporation must integrate business development activities across the entire customer journey, called the business development value chain, that consists of 5 phases. So let's briefly talk about each phase. Okay, first, the value chain begins with the awareness phase. And during this phase, a prospective customer called the prospect becomes aware of a corporation's product. For example, the prospect may see an advertisement that makes the prospect aware of the corporation or the product. Now, let's pause here for a moment to say, when we talk about a corporation's product, that means not only a corporation's tangible product, like the things a customer can touch and feel, but a product can also be a corporation's intangible services. Okay, so on to the second phase called the activation phase. It begins when a prospect realizes they have a problem to solve. And during this period, the customer gathers information on the 3 Ps of a purchasing decision, meaning they gather information on price, performance, and perception of the product's benefits. Next, the prospect enters the third phase called the conversion phase. And during this phase, the prospect compares the product price, performance, and perceptions to other competing products within the community. This phase concludes with the purchase of a product, also called the conversion. The next phase, called the success phase, is where the corporation delivers the product to the customer. It's absolutely critical that the product meets the customer's expectations. Otherwise, the customer may decide the corporation did not meet their promise, and this, of course, decreases or destroys trust. On the other hand, a successful purchase that meets or exceeds the customer's expectations increases trust. This promise kept accelerates the brand trust flywheel and helps increase growth. The next phase, called the growth phase, is the most exciting phase because as you successfully deliver more products to your customer, they become loyal and recommend your corporation to their community of friends, family, and colleagues. Therefore, the ultimate mission of business development is to continually advocate for the customer by successfully integrating all activities of the business development value chain. Okay, now let's define each business development activity. Customer experience is the customer's perception of value throughout their journey. Positive experiences increase trust, and negative experiences decrease or destroy trust. Ethics govern all business development integration activities because unethical behaviors decrease or destroy trust. Marketing promotes the awareness of products to prospects and customers. Prospect development is a business development professional specialty that cultivates and nurtures prospects into the conversion phase. And then selling rapidly converts prospects into customers during the conversion phase. Pricing establishes the price of the products. Contracting implements agreements about the value that must be delivered to the customer. Now, customer development is a BD specialty that delivers the product to the customer and takes corrective action when the product does not meet the customer's expectations. Corporate development, that's another BD specialty that acquires another corporation through a merger or an acquisition. Community development, again, another BD specialty. It creates and cultivates a community that contributes to corporate growth. Now, within that specialty of community development, there are 3 subspecialties of community development that include audience development, partner development, and economic development. And finally, product development. And that's a BD specialty that creates and continually improves products. Okay, so by now, you know how critical customer experience is to successful customer journeys. Now, let's explore how to create trusting customer experiences. Customer experience is heavily influenced by human psychology. Dr. Daniel Kahneman's 2011 book called Thinking Fast and Slow describes the two selves principle that says humans possess an experiencing self and a remembering self. The experiencing self is the brain's limbic system. We talked about this part of the brain in video number 1. And this part of the brain is called the emotional, intuitive, or subconscious brain. It provides the customer's current perception of quality. For example, each thought in the limbic system of the brain only lasts 3 seconds. That's it, just 3 seconds. The remembering self is the brain's cortex, also called the cognitive, rational, or conscious brain. It records the customer's story about experiences. And since the brain's mission is to protect the body, the remembering self records the most emotionally intense moments. So the rational brain creates a story that guides the customer's future interactions with the corporation. This remembering self remembers customers' experiences using the peak-end rule that consists of the highest emotional point, the lowest emotional point, and the end point of the journey. The most emotional touch points of a customer journey are commonly called moments of truth. Now, typically, the most impactful moments of truth are when the customer buys the product, when the customer receives the product, and the third most emotional touch point is the first time the customer experiences the benefits of the product. Therefore, your objective is to decrease or eliminate negative moments felt by your customers. Stories are extremely powerful business development tools. The ability to tell stories and learn from stories is what separates humans from every other creature on this planet. The classic 3-part story arc was created by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. The first part of the story presents the emotional low point where the hero encounters a problem. The second part of the story presents the emotional high point where the hero wins. And the end point of the story shows the effects of the hero's journey. As you can see, this ancient 3-part story arc mirrors Kahneman's modern peak-end rule. But how do stories actually work? Well, the power of stories is rooted in neuroscience. In the early 2000s, Dr. Paul Zak conducted a study showing that viewers of an emotional story have a 47% increase in oxytocin. And as we explained in video number 1, oxytocin creates a feeling of empathetic love. Dr. Zak's study also found that a story increases cortisol, created when the brain perceives fight or flight stress. And cortisol helps the brain focus and remember. And in a 2010 study at Princeton University, they discovered brain activity automatically synchronizes between a storyteller and the listener. Now, here's a really fascinating study. The Paris Brain Institute discovered that participants listening to the same story increased and decreased their heart rates at the same exact parts of the story. But here's the most interesting thing. The participants weren't even in the same room. So, why are stories such powerful business development tools? Because stories are scientifically proven to increase revenue. In conclusion, the corporation sets the prospect's expectations with the story of a hero's journey during the activation and conversion phases. It's critical that all of the promises made in that story are delivered during the success and growth phases that we'll talk about next.